Okay. I'd like to call to order the Parks and Public Works Committee for this. Oh, hi. I'd like to call to order the City of Saugatuck's Parks and Public Works Committee special meeting for January 21st. If the clerk could please call the roll.
Jarrett.
Here.
Hoffman.
Here.
Campbell.
Here.
Roach.
Here.
Stanton.
Here.
Here.
Okay. If I could have a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion. Second.
Okay.
That's my puppy.
That was Cherrick
The puppy.
and Brian.
Jarrett.
Yes. And I believe this is just a voice vote. Okay, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. No? Okay, motion approved. All right, moving on to the approval of minutes from December 17th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion. Second.
Okay. Any discussion on the meeting minutes from December 17th? Any corrections? Okay, this is a roll call vote.
Jarrett.
Yo.
Hoffman.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Roach.
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes.
And Teal. Sorry, Lauren, you don't vote.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I don't vote. Okay, this is new to me. Okay. Just scratch me right off.
Being on a committee is new to you.
Just this one. Okay, if there are any public comments, there is no one in the room today. So if there's anyone online who wishes to speak, Ashley is a no, but she's saying hello. Helen is a no, but also saying hello. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so then we will move on to our review and discussion items. This is item 6A is the annual selection of officers. And how this works, you guys, is we will take nominations. We don't need seconds really. If there's one nomination or a second nomination, we'll vote for the first one. If they don't get enough votes, then we move on to the second one. Okay, so if at this point, could I take nominations for the chairperson role?
I nominate Kelly.
Okay, all right. Is there a nomination for anyone else?
I would like to make a nomination for Member Kimball to be the chair.
Okay, this is great.
You should-
Let's start with Kelly. Any discussion?
Now, is there a reason that you would not like to do it?
Yes, I just started a role, a new job role, professional role that takes a little bit more of my time. So, yes.
That's the right answer then.
Okay,
Thank you. I appreciate your confidence.
Job's getting away.
okay. So at this point, if Kelly, are you withdrawing?
I will withdraw.
Okay. Any discussion on Nancy? Okay. All right. So then this is a roll call vote.
Yes. Hoffman.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Roach.
Yes.
And Teal.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to let Nancy go ahead and take this spot.
No, do we need a vice chair?
And then
Oh,
Nancy.
then
will
Nancy
go
does that.
ahead
Okay.
and Take
Okay.
that from here. I'm going to take my little name tag and move over. Nancy, stop.
Is this Nancy?
Yes.
Okay, Nancy, I will help you as the chair.
Thank you.
There's that.
Well, look at that. And many seats around this table, but never this one.
Will do.
Okay.
Okay. So do I hear nominations for vice chair? Brian, Keith? I would like to nominate Kelly. Are you up for that?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so
Other nominations?
discussions?
Okay, open for discussion. I just would obviously vote, or I'm supporting Kelly because we all know how active she's been on the committee. And I think that if Kelly is busy, her clone will fill in.
Keith always says, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I'm perfectly content to take a secondary role and still continue to work for the PPW committee. So
Okay, other discussion?
So you do a
Did
vote
Keith
on
get-
Keith first?
Okay,
And then a vote
okay.
on Kelly?
All right,
I'll decline.
you decline.
Okay,
Decline, so there's no vote.
Okay,
So we
okay.
can still do a vote for Kelly, so it's a unanimous vote or whatever.
Is
Yeah.
it's not a roll
Roll
call
call
vote?
vote,
Roll
yeah.
call
It-
vote.
It is a roll call
Mhm.
vote.
Yep.
Okay, all right, Sarah, please call the roll.
Cherik,
See.
Hoffman. Yes. Kimball,
Yes.
Roach,
Yes.
and Teal.
Yes.
Okay, that's fun.
Okay. So the next item on our agenda is the review of the airport property application plans. Who, are you leading that?
Sure, yeah. This is really, just kind of, a formality. We just, the ODC had submitted plans, administrative plans for the airport property to the township. And so we just wanted to get, everyone's eyes on it and then give you an opportunity to weigh in if there's any concerns, but it's pretty straightforward. There's some, preliminary design on the parking lot layout, the deck overhang, some signage. And really, that's all there is to it. So if anyone reviewed it and had any concerns, feel free to bring them up, and otherwise it's just kind of a formality.
Is that something we take to council for their approval as well? No?
I think the plans have already been submitted and this project's in action as far as far as I know. So they haven't started construction yet, but I think this is just more of a kind of a touch point at this. Nothing really, no action needed on council's part or anything like that. Just wanted to make sure we're heading in the right direction on this project.
Okay.
Is it possible to go ahead and pull up the handouts or, part of the packet? Just walk us through it a little bit, just.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, there's only about 4 documents. 2 of them are maps and yeah, that's just kind of what their objectives are. They mentioned, they didn't put a specific date. I think everything this time of year depends on the weather. So whenever spring breaks, it sounds like that's when they're going to get started, especially with the parking lot work. That's really about it. So
They
if you wanna
said-
go down to the next
It-
page.
It said that they would go until, like, from early spring to late spring. Is that thinking like 8 weeks or something, you think, or?
Yeah. I think
It'll
that
just
would be
depend on
it.
weather.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure, what contractors they use or how much of the work they're doing themselves. So I really don't have an idea of how long that project's going to take.
Right?
Yeah, that's just the application for the township. And then below that are just a couple of overviews, which I think we've seen this before. There's really nothing new or added to it. So no surprise. There's a point for the 20 by 20 deck overview, some trailhead maps. I believe the city manager is bringing the naming of potentially renaming this property at the next workshop meeting, which is tomorrow. So yeah, that's the plan. Any questions?
I don't believe so.
All right.
Okay. All right, moving on then, the next item on the agenda is the recommendation of priorities. So,
Sure, I can tee this up a little bit. Yeah, council, this is a pretty busy time of year for staff you wouldn't think it because winter time, it's the slow season, right? Well, not necessarily for city staff. This is when we kind of organize ourselves, get our projects lined up, we start pushing bid packages out. So that way, once the weather breaks, we can unroll some projects. And so we've got a pretty good amount of projects coming up. I think more of that discussion will take place at the workshop, city council workshop tomorrow. We're bringing in our Friday.
Yeah.
Oh, that's before. Thank you. I would have been there.
Yep.
Where is everybody? But good to know. Yeah. So that, our city engineer is going to be there and kind of go over some of the big picture projects that we have going on Maple Street and some of the various other work that we're going to be doing. So, but last meeting that we had, this Parks and Public Works Committee expressed an interest in maybe having an opportunity to weigh in on what, a suggestion for what council should be focusing on for this project here. So this is what that session is. Hopefully, people have given it some thought since our last meeting, and
Yeah.
by all means, I think Lauren and I can take any suggestions to council on Friday.
That's the plan. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the plan. Do you want to, I mean, just kind of keep a running tab, Scott, or?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, I'll do the same just for my sake.
We'll have
but-
the minutes too, so
Good.
we won't miss anything.
Good.
I thought maybe it would be good if we just sort of went around the room, and let everybody have an opportunity to suggest. So Kelly, you probably have a list.
Yep, I'm happy to start. So I'm really grateful to see that the naming of the airport park is on there. So we've talked a little bit about what that would look like. I know we've talked with this committee about, would it be fun to bounce that out to the community and just kind of make that fun for the kids and have some onus in naming the first new park in 25, 30 years in Saugatuck. So I look forward to see kind of what council comes up with for that. We talked about the endowment for the Village Square basketball court. And I would like to make that a priority. I know that was something that we talked about last time. We weren't comfortable in a vote. I would be comfortable in moving it forward in a vote now if others are. And I did talk with community members, as I'd mentioned, that I would do. And one thing that came up that I think is super fun, hold on, I have a visual.
Yeah.
She's ready.
Yeah.
But my computer's not.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, the charge is off. So one thing that came up is that, the endowers were potentially interested in just moving forward as a basketball court. And I think we kind of talked about that was maybe something that the community was comfortable with too, that we do use that space in that way. But one thing that was brought up is that we are an art town, and to maybe make it a little more a cultural fit for us, to put in some color. And so this individual is an artist, and she sent over some things that she had seen in other areas. So this is a basketball court that's redone. It doesn't have to be in this way. What I was thinking is it could be very cool to bring colors from what we've already put at the playground across the street and move it over and just make it fun and inviting and colorful and bright, and have that as part of the servicing. The other piece that I would like to suggest for that is putting up a fence on either side to protect the buildings, just like we already have at the tennis courts. So I just think that's a good idea for kids that are messing around with the balls. And if they do use it for other things beyond what the basketball court is, then we make sure that we're not doing any damage. So that's my second one. The third one is to get the Saugatuck Harbor Natural Area in good standing. And I know we've talked at length in this committee kind of what the next steps are. And I know, Scott, both you and Manager Cummins are very familiar with that. So I would love to see that as a project that gets pushed over the finish line in terms of we do get that in compliance. We're able to vote on how we'd like to see those funds used.
Building on that, do you have a specific project per se for the natural area? Because, or is it just kind of making sure that we meet that compliance to receive the endowment funds?
It is in order to have access to the money that's in the fund that actually is already available to us, because it vested at 4% per year. We have to get the management plan in compliance. So I know that's been sent on to you and to Ryan, and that's something that Helen and I already took a stab at, going on a year ago now. Once we get that, the Land Conservancy of West Michigan, which is the holder of the conservation easement, has recently been out, I think it was October, that we received a write-up in terms of what the lay of the land is there. They actually said it's in pretty good standing in terms of invasives, but it would be three primary things. It would be to have that money be used for working on invasive species and making sure that, the health of the forest and the land is good, legitimizing the trails and figuring out which ones we want to keep and which ones need to go, because right now people are just going wherever they want on that parcel of land. And then the third piece would be to use some of the funds to put in some signage so that we can actually keep people in the spaces that they're supposed to be in, and then out of the places that we don't want them trampling. So that's what I would see moving forward would be a great use of the endowment funds.
Can I just ask, because this project has been kind of ongoing for a while, but it seems like it's a little bit stalled, why is that? Does anybody know?
Well, right now, it's just the first thing you said was updating that management plan. And Ryan and I have been working on that. I've seen some almost final draft.
Oh, good. Okay.
Revisions of it. I know that he's worked with the Land Conservancy on getting their input on some of the things that we've highlighted. And then he also kind of got some feedback from Public Works on some of the things, some of the language that would add as far as motorized vehicle access for a trash can at the pier, for example. just making sure that it's baked into that, the plan that we have access and can operate those sorts of things within that area. So,
Yep.
I believe he's getting really close to having that completely updated, and I'm sure council will, see that once it's finally ready.
Scott,
Okay.
the other piece of that too is that there is a resolution that was put in place when the endowment came through. And so that is also something that Manager Cummins is familiar with. I'm assuming you are too. And so that is something that council will have to vote on because essentially that created a board to oversee the Saugatuck Harbor Natural Area. And so it would be, my understanding is it's up to council to decide who now would have some level of government over
Council,
that. Yeah.
council is that board.
Okay.
Yep, so that's already decided.
Okay. So, and they're keeping the resolution in place?
Yes.
Okay. So I've not heard that
Yeah.
information. So that's new.
All right.
Okay, I have more, guys. Finding a home for the spinner. So we already own a piece of equipment, from the update of the Village Square Playground. It's an awesome piece that kids will be super interested in. It's in amazing neutral colors, so it would be, I think, a great add to numerous different spaces across our city. And so I think coming up with an idea of where that might, be appropriate. How big is it? I don't remember the specs, but I mean, 10, 15 kids can play on it. So it's kind of shaped like a tree, like it's triangular, and then it comes down like this. And then it's got a big base, and then it spins very slowly. Like you can climb into the center and sit and hang out, and then you can climb up and down the sides. It's rope, and then it's like a sage color. So, we were trying to brainstorm about like where that would fit.
Any example ideas of where you think it could go?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Oh.
would love to see it at Oval Beach.
That's actually what
If
popped
there's,
in my head.
if there's
and I just
enough
wondered-
flat space there. And it would be a great addition to the swing sets there, and it would
we
be
only got-
such an attraction
We can put
for,
it anywhere then.
well,
Go here.
we have to be careful of root base, right? So that was the issue with
Trees.
putting it in, is that like, as, tree root bases spread, this is a pretty heavy duty thing in terms of how it anchors in, and so we just need to make sure that,
I meant, we can put it at any park. It doesn't necessarily have to go to that.
that is my understanding.
Yeah.
Owned by the city.
It's owned by the city. We just need to find a place for it.
Yep.
Or sell it, which is another option.
Yep.
I know, I don't want to either. But finding a home for it,
I
yeah,
know.
for sure.
So anyway, that's,
You know,
It's still there.
It's-
That has to be taken.
Well,
and it's, wearing its welcome.
yeah.
Okay,
So the next on my list is the Kalamazoo River Greenway. So some of you might be familiar with this project. So there's what's called the Macatawa River Greenway that's been going on for over 10 years. And there's a project Clarity that's based out of that. And that's essentially the health of the waterway leading into Lake Macatawa. There's been some significant parkways, connection points, and just the general health of the river that's been worked on. Outdoor Discovery Center has sort of been the owner of moving that project forward, but it's really been local governments that have been the ones that have been investing in the health of that watershed. They created through, I think it was a request through the state of Michigan to do a similar project for the Kalamazoo River Greenway. So there's this beautiful plan that's been written that came forth in 2018, and it takes it all the way. It's kind of put into 7 different communities, if you will. So Saugatuck Douglas is obviously the first one here, being at the mouth of the riverway, and then goes all the way back. And they got key stakeholders together to talk about, okay, what's important to your community and how do you use this recreationally, and what would you like to see in terms of, what you need to happen in your community. So that happened in 2018. Council was a part of that. Our city manager was a part of that. They actually are quoted in this, and then it's just sort of fallen to the wayside. And so Outdoor Discovery is willing to get stakeholders together to kind of re-update this plan and then talk about ways in which we can continue to affect change and the health of our waterways. So anyway, I would love to make this going forward a study group. And at the very least, just get people that are interested in this together. Outdoor Discovery is interested in actually facilitating a meeting just to say, hey, where are we now? The plan was written in 2018. It's now 2025. What could we do next? And that's, you know, really the ask, and then we figure out how does this work into our parks.
Do they have clear goals? I mean, in terms of,
They do.
A, B, and C, these are the things we'd like to see happen? Or is that kind of up to a committee, kind of what's important to Saugatuck, what's important to?
Yeah, and it's different for each of the 7 communities, right? Because like what's happening in Allegan, they're trying to figure out what to do with an aging infrastructure dam, right? But then what happens upriver has total impact in terms of the sediment. And then, you know, the Kalamazoo River was named it's a superfund. So there's toxins, there's PCBs all along the riverway. And a portion has been cleaned up. I think it's like 7 miles that have been cleaned up so far, but there's 81 miles to that river. So that is an ongoing thing, but you know, we here need to be concerned about the health. It's like if they make changes upriver, it's like, and you know, I think obviously government would be contacted, but I think it would be nice if we had some level of understanding of what was going on and we're talking to our counterparts to make sure that we're kind of all at the
On that
table to make
side.
decisions and make sure we feel comfortable with it.
Now,
So
Is that kind of historical info about like the contaminants? Is that in that plan?
I believe so. Yeah.
Nice.
In terms of like, it's the paper mills and
Yeah.
and then
Plainwell.
the primary one is PCBs.
For
that's
us,
in there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Are the other communities working on this?
So I don't know. I mean, they did. They had shareholders from each portion of it originally. But that's a really good question in terms of where everybody is. And then there's like a Kalamazoo River Council or something like that. So there are other nonprofits that are involved. So again, those people we would bring into the fold as well, which I think then they could obviously better educate us on where it stands today and what, you know, what are their primary goals to kind of help us. But you know, it was something that our elected council was very interested and concerned about. And then, you know, council changes, management changes, and things get lost and things. So I would just love to move it into a point of discussion at the very least for our group. So there's that. And I'm happy to, the plan is for public consumption. I mean, it's just, I can send the link out. The next one is a rec center. So that's in our 5-year parks plan. I know that's something that our new superintendent of Saugatuck Public Schools is interested in. So I think at the very least, it could be an interesting conversation with stakeholders in the community to say, hey, is this something that we want? And then just move the conversation from there. We've talked about Michigan Green Communities. So that is that program that's based out of University of Michigan and the state of Michigan. It is basically an Excel spreadsheet that walks us through all these different priorities from to become a more sustainable community. You know, a lot of the, I think, kind of busy work could be done by our group and then kick to DPW and city staff, where we could take some of the grunt work, the hours out and then say, hey, this is, or it could come vice versa. They could say, these are the things we want. And then we do that. But this is something that both the township and Fenville are now moving up in the ranks in. So it starts as, you start out, it's bronze level, then silver, then gold. And now they actually have communities across the state that are platinum level. Why this is of interest is, you actually start to get consulting dollars from the state. So projects that we don't necessarily have the money or expertise for, we can have people weigh in. You can become part of community groups where you can see what's going on in other towns that are like ours or that have similar issues or things that they want to tackle, and you can see how they're doing it.
What's the name of it again, Kelly?
So Michigan Green Communities. I'm happy to send out, they have a whole landing page website.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, in Fenville, they're also doing like they have their first sustainability report this year. So like, I would love to just be able to move a little bit forward. And a lot of these things we're already doing, you know, so, and then just go and take credit for, so that opened January 1st, Michigan Green Communities, and we would submit if we participate in May. It's the first week of May. So we still have a run rate if we wanted to participate in this. And then invasive species, of course, I'd love what you guys are doing with invasive species education and creating sort of a template for the public to be able to get information from. And then a gifting policy for endowments. I think that's an interesting conversation whether that starts with us and goes to council. Council just tells us how those things are going to go. I think as we start to see, as we start to continue to invest, I think more people will be interested. I think energy begets energy and people see that we care and we're investing, and then hopefully more money will come through that. And so we need to know how to handle it.
Yeah, that would be something that we could do that, you know, to put it out there within the community that come to us. To, you know, kind of make our own noise about people in the community who certainly can afford and can donate to us and make their own projects or towards projects. That we, I don't know, do we put that out there on a level that the city can, our residents know this? Because the ones that we've had, they've seemed to be, someone had passed away or a specific interest to someone. Can we open that up to, okay, if you want to donate, talk to these people, talk to us, or,
We haven't done that yet.
I mean, I think we need
like-
some kind of PR campaign to say, okay, you got something to give it to us.
Mhm.
People have choices and, if you
Yeah.
don't think about us, why would you?
Yeah, I think in part, it's like this priorities list, right? Making priorities, talking to council, finding out what council's priorities are and what they want to move forward with, and then, we would know in terms of endowment, like what we would want to move forward with, but what
But
we
put it out
found.
in the community so they know to come to us.
Yeah.
It's an important, that's another component of that we've not really discussed that I think would be important too.
Mhm.
But how do we make it so when people donate, we are like a 501c3? So, I mean,
Yeah, there could be a formation of just like the library, a Friends of the Parks type of thing.
that seems like it would be.
I mean, that is
better for
definitely
us
something
donors.
that you would
Maybe.
ask of council if that's something that, and then we would have to find out if there's interest in, people wanting to be a part of that and head that up.
I am forming one,
Okay.
a 501(c)(3). I don't know what the name of it's gonna be yet, but it's specifically geared toward people donating to the parks, Sagatuck.
But shouldn't this be something that you're not just doing on your own? Keith?
Well, it's gonna involve I won't be on my own. It'll involve members of the community also, people you have. And then I've talked to some people in the township, since we're going down this path, that we'll make it larger eventually, so it can include the township and those. So it can be like, if there's people who want to donate to their community, we don't have to have all these like little offshoot arms, 501(c)(3)s.
Mhm.
But,
Does the township currently have a nonprofit for their parks, or do they just have a committee like we have? Do you know that, Scott?
not know that.
I don't know that either.
I don't know, I've heard, I can tell you for sure that I don't think we have any sort of donation policy in place, so, for staff to follow. So maybe that's where it starts, is just a recommendation, is just, I make the suggestion to council that the PPW committee would like to see a donation policy,
Yes.
so that we have a roadmap. I mean,
I could just comment as being on the Friends of the Blue Star Trail. Everything we do, basically, we started with Allegan Community Foundation. And so we are really just like a sub.
I
onto
toyed
them.
with that idea for a minute, and since I was on the Friends of the Library Board, the interest that Friends of the Library makes is a lot more on our savings than what the Allegan Community Foundation provides.
We figured a way around that too, but we can talk about that later. But you're right. Go ahead, Kelly. Anything else?
No, I'm just excited to see, I know council's currently working on the updates to Mount Bald Head, and I'm super excited to see those come to fruition, and I know, we're having a continued discussion about what to do about the willow tree.
Okay. Judy, do you want to go next?
Yeah.
Well, she probably took a whole lot of yours already.
I mean, I think.
it's
that
not on
also
the agenda this time.
Great, I'd
It's-
love to get involved with a couple of those things. Obviously, we have to see what council determines is going to move forward. I think, the green communities thing is a great idea. I did read through that packet when it was sent during the meeting, I think 2-3 months ago. That was my first meeting, and it sounds like we are halfway there already on becoming a green community. So I think that would be a really easy thing to move forward with. Other than that, so one thing I was thinking about, I came from Pleasant Ridge, which Brian used to live there as well. And this is not a priority, but just something that I was thinking about. They had a partnership with the DIA and had some like public art installations that were I don't know if they were on loan, but they were changed out occasionally. We had walking paths throughout our community and they had, different art pieces and a little bit of an educational spin on the art. And they were in these, I actually emailed the city of Pleasant Ridge to see if they had any information on the displays that were used to do that. Because I thought it was really cool. It was a great way to kind of engage the community with art, and Saugatuck being full of artists, you know, we wouldn't need to partner with a DIA or a art museum. We could have, you know, we could sponsor local artists throughout the community who want to put work out there. You know, it was just something that I thought was really cool about my old community. So I'll see what they say. Again, it's not something that I think we need to mention at this point in terms of any kind of prioritization. I just thought it would be a neat idea to kind of expand the art throughout the community.
Was there not some
That's a
talk
cool
about-
idea.
about doing something like the Winter Wonderland kind of idea? And that would hook in with that as well. I mean, to
Yeah.
set something like that up. And I would like things like that. I would love to see some smaller ideas from our committee that puts our stamp on it. That the community says, the parks, you know, and Public Works, they do this. Because while we've done some big things, the playground, the airport property, but I mean, things that within our city that they can say, they did this. And build our importance within the community. I think it's an important thing to do. Nancy, even like the things of planting natural plants over by the reservoir thing,
By the preserve.
by the preserve. Little things that we can kind of pick up that has our stamp on it. And I think that's gonna make it easier for us to do some of the bigger things when they say, oh, they're doing it.
No, I think
I like
that, I like the way you're thinking, yeah.
The lights out night, I thought that was a great idea.
Mhm.
Simple
Mhm,
things
yeah.
that can put our stamp on it. So when we come up with the big things, we have a community around us that's already gonna support us.
Yeah, they're
Same
familiar with
idea.
what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to see things like that
Mhm.
too. With, you know, within the big things.
Judy, I loved your idea. That was one I've never heard or thought of. Anything else you want to add or?
I haven't heard back from them yet, so I'm gonna follow up and see if anybody, and I am gonna be in Detroit, tomorrow, so I thought about driving by, to see if they're still there in my old neighborhood, so that I could take a couple pictures and, see what I can find out about it. Like, it's been a few years since I've seen it, so I don't even know if it's still around, but I liked the way that they did it. I thought it would be something that would be really easy to do here. So, you know, we'll see. Just
Yeah.
an idea, and we can expand on it as we go.
And Saugatuck Center for the Arts might be interested in partnering with us on that too.
Volunteer there, so.
And
Brian?
I'm part of an art group.
What?
And I'm part of an art group that has some sculptors in it and they're, you know, that we get together once a month. So that would be
Oh,
my next.
you're next.
Oh, I thought I said everything that I was gonna.
Well,
come up with.
well, why don't you just
I've already done it.
Quick, give a quick review because I wasn't taking notes. I don't know, Scott, if you're getting all this.
Lights out and I had wildflowers.
The way you put it that way.
I don't mean
I like it.
correct, I guess.
But the idea, I mean, I kept thinking, it's like we've done so many big things that at some level have been, you know, caused ruckus or whatever. But ruckus. To do some things that are simple, that give us a good name and that put us in the community as they do shit. I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, like the invasive.
Really
species
small
was
audience.
very-
yeah, I think that's really helpful.
But that kind of thing. That's what I kept thinking, because I know Kelly is amazing and he, you know, you can get the big things done. I have no idea. I mean, that, you know, that's just too much for my mind at this age. But I love the idea
love this
of,
committee.
of having our community look as active members that get some great things done, that whatever it is, beautify the city, make it more fun, whatever. but that are manageable and not, a huge leap, of studies and da. That we can do immediate things that they go, we did it.
Mhm.
Okay.
And that can be any number of things. So we
You're
can
giving
do.
me a lot of good ideas right now.
So we.
Watch out.
Things.
I'm exhausted.
Give more.
But we can
So
do the
good,
big
Ryan.
things because we already have the reputation of getting things done and helping.
I like it. All right, Keith.
In relation to the board for the Saugatuck Harbor Natural Area. So the council is the board. So I'm thinking that maybe a few of our board members should be on that board.
On council?
No, on the Saugatuck Natural Harbor Area Board.
Council is serving that function to meet the requirement for the endowment.
Now,
Okay.
is the endowment is, so do we make the choices? For the signage, do we make the choices?
I think we
Yeah,
would
like
have
we-
we would be the recommending body. So we would come up with ideas to recommend to council and then they would approve or not approve it.
So we.
Just like we are for everything else, but yeah.
We,
Yes,
Okay.
PPW, yes.
now I understand.
Where we would make recommendations. Yep.
I get it. What I'd like to see on my list is kayak launch ramps at some of the street ends. And yeah, I mean, Saugatuck has a boatload of street ends on both sides of the river.
Yep.
And one that's currently not even being used is, I guess you have the chain ferry and then you have that. They did that, I won't mention the land swap. Oh, did I mention that? They did that land swap where the houseboats are.
Although,
And so there's that little, on the other side of where the houseboats are. I didn't mention the land swap, did I think that, or did I say that?
we did.
So right on the south side of where the houseboats are, if they're still there, I have no idea. There's like a 20-foot, 40-foot, how wide is that?
I don't have the width, but I know what you're talking about.
There's a strip of land where you're gonna have they make these cool little launch ramps for kayaks and canoes that you can just slip them right down and you can pull them right back out of the water. That would be a great spot for that. And then we have street ends that aren't even being utilized here that are, I don't even know if they're leased out.
They are, I pay for one of those, yes.
Is every single one leased out on? both?
I believe so, but
Well, I
I'm
mean,
not sure.
Either
Jamie
way.
does the street end
whether
license.
they're leased out or not, I don't know, but there could be a spot along Water Street
Yeah.
that you can
Nice.
launch
Yeah.
kayaks from. In fact, right where the chain ferry is, there's a little dead zone right there to the north of where the chain ferry is that you can almost utilize too.
Right.
So kayak launch ramps, and from what I understand previously, from one of our meetings, there's grants along the for the look at that one. There's grants available
Mhm.
and there's money available for for this type of situation. And this should be under, Nancy, this should be under your tutelage. Do we have enough, like those little bike stations with bike fix-it tools?
Do we have? No, we don't have them.
So that would be another thing.
Fix it.
Yeah, there's these like little, there are tubes that come out of the ground. They're kind of like tall horseshoes. And they have all sorts of like Allen wrenches and wrenches that are tied down by cables.
It's like bike maintenance.
Bike maintenance
of-
stations.
Gotcha.
I love that.
The Dark Sky Park,
Mhm.
not Dark Sky Park, but Dark Skies. The high school is an example of this. They have timers on their lights in the parking lot, and I face the parking lot at the back of my house. So they turn them off like 10:30 or 11, and they turn them on like 6 a.m. And occasionally we have an owl in the backyard. Owls don't like bright lights.
They don't.
The other one is the willow tree. My wife and I went over there when it was roped off after the big branch fell down. And we took like 3 dozen small sprigs off the branches. and we sprouted.
Oh,
So.
that's so cool.
When that tree comes down, you might want to have a process of something that you cut all the little branches off.
Can we sell them?
We could give them away.
Can we sell them?
Or sell as part of a fundraiser, like.
Yeah, we could sell it as part of a fundraiser.
Yes, that's.
And that's actually a great idea. We could sell them as part of a fundraiser, put them in a little bag.
Yep.
With the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee stamped on.
Yep.
Brought to you by.
Yep.
I don't know if this is our gig or the council's gig. But in relation to invasive species. I think the council would actually, this would be probably have more say so coming from the council. If you sent Kalamazoo, I understand communication with Cal Lake has to be done via email, it can't be done via phone but we could get a list of what chemicals and herbicides and pesticides that are good, that go into the storm sewer system that promotes invasive species growth in the river. So we could actually, working toward the idea of a green, Michigan green community, we could start informing the public or mitigating actually, like a ban on certain, I hate to use the word ban. We could work on informing what people use, what landscaping companies, what True Green uses, what all these companies use. So that people can have their beautiful green lawns and the effect it's having on the community. Almost. Oh, and I did have a conversation with, who's, Minter, the new principal, vice principal.
Oh,
Melanie Moore.
Melanie Moore.
I had a conversation with her. She thought it's a great idea that getting some kids involved to create a website for invasive species in our community. Yeah. So my next step with her is outlining an email with her, so she can present it to kids. And she said there's kids at that high school that could do it blindfold.
I know, that's true.
I think that's it. Oh, we can do this at another meeting, but we should go back to our original list of all the parks and just kind of go through them one by one.
I was gonna say, if we could all take a look at the 5-year parks plan, just re-up that, give it a review. And we just did that last year, so I think that would be a nice.
And every park is listed in there, right?
They're all listed, and then all of our ideas are listed in terms of what we'd like to see happen too. So I think that would be like a really nice refresher. And the big thing that came out of that was connectivity of all, the tri-communities, so our downtowns, our schools, our parks, our rustic trails, our non-motorized, like the Blue Star, and then waterways. So that was sort of the idea that came out with working with the 3 municipalities and then the school. And so I kind of think keeping that overarching goal as a part of everything that we're doing is helpful too.
Okay. All right, many of the things that were on my list have already been mentioned, but I'll just go ahead and reiterate that the dark sky just, is something I'd really like us to start to investigate. And I think you mentioned, Brian, like a dark sky night?
It may be difficult to have all the time, a designated area, but I think we could very easily get our community on for a week, let's say. Everything's dark sky. We can put that out. People can come here and look at stars for that, like what is it? Not like a festival, like a dark night thing. I don't know.
Event.
Yeah.
I like,
Because it might be difficult to have it.
well,
We
it's
can't
just,
do it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see us become a dark sky community, and there are other communities that have done that, so I don't think there's any reason why we couldn't do that, but doing what you said might be like a good
That's-
stick
that's
your
step
toe in the water kind of a thing, you know, so that, I like that idea, but I really like the idea of, you know, us working towards dark sky.
If I could, I would recommend if someone wants to take that on, call Douglas City Hall, because I know that they do something with that already, because I've seen it in the commercial record, and I think it's exactly what you're talking about, where it's like they observe a week in June of dark skies, so they do everything to remind people to turn the lights off and, you know, just all the different principles of it.
Mhm.
So, you know, if we could kind of have them walk us through how they brought that into the community, I think it could help.
And actually, one of my neighbors is very, very focused on this. So I think if we started to think back to when we first started this committee, we said we were going to have study groups, and the study groups wouldn't just be us doing all of the work, but getting other community members involved. You know, I know I've got somebody who'll be on it. So, and I think that's a good idea, because we've mentioned so many things here, and I can't say there's a single one that I have an issue with. I love them all, you know, but we're only so many people. And so, you know, it'd be nice to think about getting other people involved. The Keith, you mentioned the review of the parks. I really think that's a good idea. You know, we could just at one meeting say, let's just go through our parks and what's good about them and maybe what could be improved. You know, you talked, Brian, about the invasive species, you know, and I think the counter to that is native species. So we want to not only make people aware of, you know, the invasive species, and I think our group, you know, like I said, I tried to do it almost as a little pilot project, you know, by planting some native species in the Peterson Preserve. But I'd love to see us, you know, use that as just like a model, you know, and think about other parks and where, when we think about our parks, where could we, you know, just put a little corner or something, you know, because we know that we're just losing these monarchs, and anything you can do to put in, you know, one of the terms is pocket prairie. I'd love to see us, you know, try to do that. And I think that, you know, all that is good. And really, I think Douglas actually has more of that than we do right now. But I think it brings people to the community, or at least people like me.
The high school might be interested. You know.
Yeah, so there's been so many opportunities. Sustainability, I would love to see us do that. And is that the best way to do that? Maybe Kelly, to follow up on the Michigan Green communities?
That's my personal feeling in terms of that's the low hanging fruit to get just some momentum going. So we're like kind of walking the
Yeah,
walk, right? So, and that's a free framework that we can use. Doesn't cost anything but our time. You know, it's come up that it's city staff time, right? So that's what we have to be cognizant of. And, you know, city staff has a lot of priority projects. And so, you know, that's what we've been up against before. So, but I would love to see this be the year that we move it forward even a little bit, right? Just because then I think it becomes easier and less of a kind of mental barrier to try something new, right? So.
You know, there's so much we need to do. You just look, obviously, we all know about climate change, and we're going to have some issues at the national level, maybe moving that forward, but at the local level, you know, if all local communities, you know, start, it's going to help. We talked a little bit already about foundation, gifting policy. I think all of those things, you know, we need to sort that out so that we can just start to welcome donations, I think. And then so many of these things we want to do, they take money, and we'll have a source. And of course, you've heard me talk before about the Peterson Preserve. So that one never seems to get any love. And I would really like that to get some attention, because the preserve itself, the water that's in that preserve is basically due to dams that were put in by private owners, and they're still actually under the control of private citizens. And so when we have issues, as Scott knows, where lots of rain comes, you have to open up this sluice gate. Right now, we don't even have a, what do you call it? Easement. Easement, that's the word I'm looking for. You know, you have been given permission to go and, you know, work there, do what needs to be
And
done.
that could change, especially with the property, you know, change of hands.
Yes,
So right now,
that's-
Eric Peterson allows me to, in fact, I think it counts on me to go and open or close that sluice gate when appropriate, but, you know,
It's his private property.
it's his private property. So
And
Sounds like we need some sort of legal easement to happen
yes,
going forward.
Yes, because if that property changes hands and someone else says, well, I don't want city coming on my property, then when there's a big rain and normally city employees go and deal with this, it'll be a real problem and the whole thing will just go. And it's old, it needs to be, I think it needs to be a project that we look at because it's just a little gem in our city that, you know, people who know about it, I mean, I can see it out my back window. I see people out there all the time with their dogs. It's just a nice little place to go and, um, it can get really busy here in the summer, but you can go over there and it's nice and quiet and peaceful. And we should, I don't want to promote it to the point where it's no longer nice and quiet and peaceful, but we want to preserve it, and there's a lot of invasive species in there.
And that would also be encompassed in the Kalamazoo River Greenway. So that's all watershed.
I
that
think
flows
I
in,
was
so that's
thinking
part
that,
of that
I was
plan as
thinking
well.
that when you said that.
You know, that walkway.
The one in the Peterson Nature Preserve we do, yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
our, it's the cities all the way to the other side.
Yep.
Yeah, and I guess then the last thing I think we should think about is how we are operating. So obviously, we've just thrown out a million ideas. We know that our priorities are set by the council. And so, do we have to actually get permission to have something be on our study, to become a study group? Can we decide that ourselves? I'm not clear right now. When we started this committee, we didn't think that everything had to come straight from council. I remember we sat here and we brainstormed, what kinds of things should we work on? And how do we want, what do we think is important? And we just kind of took off running with it. And there were things that council had said, we need you to do. And we worked on those as well, like, the playground. And then once we get these things decided, I would really like us to be a little more formal so we can really get some of these things moving forward. And, some of them we've talked about and we kind of talk about them every month, but we haven't made a whole lot of headway. So do we need to have, if we're going to have something as a project, do we have like a little charter? Okay, this is what the project is. This is what its goals are. Now we need a little project plan. Who's in charge? Who's going to work on it? So I'd like to see us get a little more organized in that way.
Details matter, definitely. I think, my understanding of all this is we have our bylaws, and that allows us to kind of look at some things like that are not specific projects, but just make certain recommendations. That's fine. I think, as far as spending a lot of time working on a specific project, that's where it is important that it comes from council because, we could spend 10 years, a year working on something or 2 years working on something, recommend it to council and nope, it's not our priority right now. We've got these 15 other things going on. So we just wasted some time. But, I think we'll get our priorities from council as far as projects go, but there's also some things that this group can decide. I think this is a kind of a really cool slot of time that PPW has at the moment because it is kind of some of the study group work that we had before is now complete, or at least it's at the point where it's now in staff's hands. And so there's really not a whole lot of opportunity for input from PPW at this point with some of that stuff, right? So this is a good opportunity for us to, hear the council priorities. That'll be kind of our main compass. But at the same time, if we have the bandwidth, then we can maybe tackle some other things like, as Brian was talking about some of these, what are some of the things that we can do without necessarily a council directive?
Mhm.
Well, there's things in our bylaws like streetscaping, for example. This taps a little bit more into the public works side of things more than parks too, where I could really use some help with this is that right now to maintain the city streetscape, it's kind of a cobbled random assortment of some places have aggregate sidewalk, other places have bare concrete. There's flower planters, sometimes there's merchandise in the roadway. There's kind of a discussion of, well, do we want like this? What do we want? And I think that that's the type of recommendation that can come from this committee. I used to go around back when I was on the seasonal staff and I used to kind of pull some of the weeds and like, man, it'd be really great if we could all make this all uniform down here so that it was like a clear roadmap for public works to maintain it to that standard. But then, business owners would come out back when the business owners owned the building, and now a lot of them don't own the buildings. But, the argument of that is, well, I really think that this is unique to Saugatuck and it's kind of what gives it its charm. And so then, okay, that's a different conversation. So, but to get a clear recommendation from this group would be very helpful. And those are the sorts of things that I hear anyway, so all that to say, I think that we have kind of this transitional period right now where,
Mhm.
you know, we'll hear the priorities from council and then we'll kind of, I hope anyway, that we'll have an opportunity to kind of reorganize ourselves and figure out, okay, we have a million ideas. I could go over the project list of what we're working on now. You know, between what people want, what we have going on already, how do we organize that so that it's real and that we're not taking on too much and that we can actually get some things across the finish line. So
Right.
that's kind of what I plan on doing anyway with, well, with you as the chair now, and vice chair. Lucky you that we can kind of reorganize this a little bit and, you know, make an impact.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. I'm excited.
And Scott, what are your priorities so far with DPW in terms of things that you might want recommendations from PPW on?
Yeah, I'll bring that, kind of, when we have like this more organizational meeting, I think that I'll bring some ideas. I don't want to do, you know, too much too quick because like you said, Kelly, like with the Michigan Green communities, the thing that staff keeps contending with is bandwidth. And all these things are great. They're all important, but the reality is our staff team is tiny. And we have some major stuff going on right now. So like Mount Baldhead restrooms, those are happening this summer. So, hey, that's great. That's the last update that I got was that this is going to be taking place. That's, you know, $275,000-ish project. You know, the upper platform, that's going to be happening, you know, shortly thereafter the restroom, probably 2026. But we have Maple Street, you know, that's a multi-million-dollar project that we have. You know, and there's probably some opportunity for this group to weigh in on a piece of that, you know, like maybe in terms of, you know, like a walking path or some sort of non-motorized area for that. But that's taking up some staff bandwidth for sure. And then along with that too, you know, you guys wouldn't know this, but you know, like $170,000 project to repave the DPW garage. You know, that's way overdue. It looks terrible. That hasn't necessarily been a priority project set by council, but these are things that you know, they exist. So, you know, Village Square Courts, that's, you know, we're kind of at a standstill on on a lot of this stuff, but there is a lot of stuff that we're moving forward with. So, you know, once you see all that listed out, it's going to be probably a good discussion to have when we have the more organization and kind of align ourselves on some of this stuff. So, yeah, like a couple things came up. Things come up all the time, but like I had two things come up recently that I'm like, yeah, that has to be done. Like one is like the culvert over in Douglas, you know, has wreaked havoc on, I think, that community in terms of the inconvenience financially, you know, so, you know, learning lesson is, hey, you know, we have a major galvanized culvert under Holland Street. Are we doing inspections on these things? You know, is that being planned for? You know, I was also informed that we have a couple of, I think 8 or 9 fire hydrants that they don't have breakaway fire hydrants, so they don't have a shutoff valve. So if a car hits them or something, there's no way to stop the water other than to close down the water main. So that would be a big impact on people. So those are some of the things that, you know, when we talk about staff bandwidth, these are some major things that we just have to contend with. So that's not to say that we can't tackle some of the, you know, the more lower hanging fruit. But, you know, we'll have to be careful on how we do this in terms of council priorities and what the bandwidth is. If we can get other people involved in some of this stuff, that'd be fantastic. So, you know, interesting conversations coming up on where we can go from here for sure.
So this is a segue. If, Nancy, are you finished with your list? I want you to finish with your list before I get to mine, but I do have something to add on to what Scott just said, so.
Real quick, with what you just said, Scott, it's always in the back of my mind, and this is not a parks thing, but maybe it is a public works. I worry that when we get some really big rains, this town has flooded before, and what's going to happen? And is the council making that a priority to, you know, to
Sure.
think about? And
Sure.
that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah.
And then my last comment is just, I would hope council would recommit to trails. And I'll talk a little bit later about the Blue Star Trail and where we are. But we've hit some some pretty good headwinds. And so I would hope that at the meeting, the strategic planning meeting, they would just reconfirm their commitment to that trail. And with that, I'll pass it to Lauren.
Okay. So just with everything that is on Scott's plate, just with the increase in the Oval Beach passes and the money there, along with the $1 million parks budget, does it make sense to have an added employee to help with some of these parks projects when you have so much to do with DPW? That I know in the past, council has approved this extra employee and then it just never comes to fruition. I feel like with all of these parks projects that maybe there is, room for a new employee. I know it's a budget item and we have to talk about it at city council. But does it make sense to have an administrator for parks or an added person? If it goes along with the manager of Oval Beach, something along those lines, but to have an added person that could help with a lot of this stuff. That's a thought, with the money that's coming from Oval Beach. And, a lot of the money will be spent of that $1 million for the upper platform at Mount Baldhead in the bathroom. That'll probably be coming out of the parks budget. But that leaves room for potentially having an employee. And is that the best money spent? I don't know. It's just a discussion that should happen. Go ahead.
Does the money from Oval Beach parking go into the parks budget?
It basically, yes, it goes into the parks budget, not that $1 million budget. It's a separate line item, but it's supposed to be spent on things connected to Oval Beach.
Exactly.
So, yep. So that's why the Wi-Fi, that's something that could come out of there. Yeah.
Doesn't go into the general fund.
It's supposed to kind of stick with anything related to Oval Beach.
There are a
So,
lot of needs out
and there are a
for
lot of
sure.
needs. Yeah, there are a lot of needs, but is an extra employee one of those needs? I don't know, Scott, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, Ryan and I, we've definitely had conversation about that. Obviously that would be a recommendation coming from the manager, probably straight to council, wouldn't necessarily be this group, but certainly I think the needs are there.
Mhm.
It wouldn't be a waste of money. I can tell you that. A
Right.
person will be busy. And that's what's challenging a lot of times is that, we all have jobs. Like, our tiny little team, we're already busy. And
Mhm.
so every single time that one new thing comes in, something else overflows. It's that same story over and over, but it's true. So that hasn't changed a whole lot in terms of our team size.
Okay. So that was on my priority list just because of all of these projects and hopes and dreams and everything else that goes along with it, that maybe another person would help with that.
You answered your question, yes, another full-time employee would be.
Wouldn't it be amazing? Yes. So I'm just going through my list because I know so much of this has already been mentioned. I just want to go over to make sure that I have just the whole donation policy / Friends of the Parks. I think that is something that City Council could definitely, they know that needs to happen as far as a donation policy. And then if that means a Friends of the Parks is created, I think that would be incredible. One, we could do fun things with it where there's fundraisers and actual, ways to create more money for our parks. I think that would be fantastic. As Scott mentioned, the whole streetscape idea and having new signs created throughout town to kind of guide you, not just for our trails, but also our businesses in town. I don't know if that's a PPW recommendation thing, but it has been approved through council to look into, making sure we have better business signs downtown. But I'm with Scott in needing a new streetscape plan. I think it would work out well when we have to replace the lead service lines on Butler Street to do it at that time. Once that street has to be dug up for lead service lines, it would be a great opportunity to really look at our streetscape plan to make it easier for DPW, and also just the trip hazards and things that are
Canopy alone.
the tree canopy, all of those things. If you go to any community that has had a new streetscape plan, wouldn't that be fun for PPW to do little field trips to go? I was just in Hastings a month ago, and they have a brand new streetscape that is incredible. Allegan is another great example of where they had to redo the roads. You're replacing your lead service lines, and it just really makes sense to do all of that when, so that is a couple years down the road, but, you know, something to keep in mind as far as timing, when that might work out. Yes, and then the heated sidewalks, wouldn't that be wonderful?
I haven't done that one later.
And then just having a list of maybe they would be lower priorities for council, but dream ideas. I call them dream projects because you know a donator would love, you know, somebody to come forward with a donation for a project that might be lower on the list of budget for the city council, but could be dream items that we say, yes, would you like to, you know, donate to this project? Awesome. We have this list of our dream projects, you know, things like an ice rink or a splash pad or expanding our pickleball courts and tennis courts and, you know, the futsal and all of those things. These are all amazing things that might not be on council's priority list as far as budget, but gosh, they are more exciting things for people to donate towards than a new bathroom. So, you know, people don't want to put their name on a bathroom, but they sure would on a pickleball court, right? You know what I mean? I just think that there's, you know, so I guess that all falls within the donation policy and those dream projects. And I really think we could come up with, as PPW, here are a list of dream projects that we would love to see donations for. And as long as council says yes to our dream list, you know, like, yes, we would want that if there was money. Yes, we would want that if there was a grant. Yes, we would want that. And so we need the yes from council, but we also, how fun would it be for all of us to come up with those ideas?
Pretty fun.
Yeah, right? I mean, that's the point of this committee is to come up with the fun things, but also knowing council would have to say yes or no to some of those ideas. Let me make sure. I agree with, you know, accepting the money for the endowment for the basketball court. Like, I think if we just resurfaced that, it would be a really great thing for other people to say, hey, look at how they redid that with a donation. Maybe other donators would come forward and say, okay, I want to do the pickleball court and go on with that. Let's see. That is all I have. I want to make sure that everything else was mentioned. The only other thing that we didn't mention is replacing the Saugatuck sign at Holland Street in Blue Star. I like the idea of putting this out to artists for renderings of, you know, we have the palette sign, it's gorgeous. Couldn't we have artists come up with another cool idea for a Saugatuck sign? It's something we would work with the township there. I believe they're willing to go half with the city on that. But again, artist renderings would be awesome. People can submit, you know, their ideas and we could pick. Yeah, community could be involved. It would be a really cool thing. But I think an artistic sign at that area would be really cool. I think that is all I had other than what everybody else had mentioned.
May I jump in on one last thing?
Yeah, of course.
Kind of building on what you said about having that secondary list, that makes a lot of sense to me because like, yeah, maybe it's not an urgent priority, but it's still something that could be on the horizon. Like, for example, I think I've told you this several times, but we talked about the Peterson Nature Preserve and like, I have to access private property to go and open up this janky old sluice gate on a mill. That could change. And so one thing that I found interesting about our bylaws is that like property acquisition barely ever gets talked about. And so, you know, when I think of like that, the Peterson Mill, it is not for sale. This is just an idea. So not a priority, not anything. This is just, you know, an idea that I've always had, which was, you know, maybe the city, we had some icons, you know, like the Keewatin, back when that was in the city. That thing, I was devastated when that thing got sold and was pulled out of this harbor. It had been there forever. really cool, iconic piece. Mount Baldhead is in that category. But in my opinion, the Peterson Mill is also in that category. It's just like, it's on a postcard. It's on, when you think of Saugatuck, that's one of the pieces of it. It's like, well, that's unique and something that you don't see very often, and it's beautiful. It's privately owned, and I think it's a vacation rental, but,
It is.
It is.
It is.
but,
It is.
you know, at some point, I do know Eric Peterson. We have, and I told him, you know, I would really like to see the city try to acquire that property, like make it a visitor center, somewhere that somebody could pull into that and not go into the heart of downtown where it's super busy, but somewhere where, on the outskirts, where someone could easily access it. And, you know, get T-shirts, or you know, CVB or something occupies it, but that would also give us, you know, it's connected to the Peterson Nature Preserve, which is already our city park. In my mind, it's another piece of that park. Anyway, for what it's worth, having that secondary list would be helpful for stuff like that.
Yeah.
We've discussed that from the very beginning about creating a foundation or this kind of list and putting some nice, you know, marketing materials together too, so that it's presented in a professional way when someone is interested. And then also that we're very keyed in on what the priorities would be to be able to share with those individuals that, you know, want to continue to invest in our city.
Good.
So,
You know, you gave me you just gave me an idea. Can I add to a couple of these?
Sure.
ideas we already talked about? I mean, a Saugatuck passport for kids. So if somebody comes to the CVB could do this, or somebody else could do this. Where, okay, I saw the Peterson Mill and they put a little stamp on that. Yeah, on their passport page. Hey, I saw Mount Baldhead, they put a little passport on that page. It could be a list of like 10 or 15 items that kids could use. And that, you know, a little thing that, little site, or Douglas passport, you could include all three communities. The other thing was, in relation to the Michigan Green Community thing, again, I don't even know if these actually exist, but a kind of like a private partnership with people who own vacant lands, so you could do pocket prairies. You don't necessarily have to own the property. You don't have to put a land conservancy on it or a conservation easement on it. You could just say, hey, you don't have, or you can create a pocket prairie on it. But Saugatuck currently has a mowing ordinance.
Oh,
That you have to mow your lawn if it's a vacant piece of property.
Oh,
I got fined for it.
okay. So you're saying it could be an alternative to that. That
Right,
seems
maybe that-
smart. Yeah.
And then
And
An
I, you
amendment
know, I
to
don't
it?
know where this falls as far as future projects or dream projects. The other one is no mow May.
I was waiting for that.
I got,
Yeah, we thought for sure you would bring that up.
no, I own an empty lot next door to me and that lawn's not gonna be mowed. So,
No May.
No, it's actually a real thing.
Yeah, I know.
So you guys just made me think about those three things.
Yeah, great.
It's, I mean, if we look at just the committee as a whole, it's very, you know, we can do it into 3 steps. We have the foundational, the Michigan Green Communities, the street, you know, things, our dream projects, and those all depend on the councils. But then there's also the other part,
The little projects, I think we can almost
Parks,
organize them
yeah.
that way. I was thinking that.
Yes.
you know, where we have autonomy, where we can do something just for our name. So if we can do that in 3 steps, it's much easier to look at, put things where they belong
Mhm.
and what priority they are. But from what I'm hearing, that's what it is. There's 3 things. we can
Mhm.
do.
No, I
And
think-
whatever slot they go in is their importance. But you know, what we can do without any flack from anybody else,
Mhm.
the things we'd love to do and the things that we are absolutely, you know.
The things we're tasked with, yeah.
driven by council.
That's good.
Okay, yeah, this has been a great session.
Yeah, I think it has been too.
Yeah, it's been a big one, a deep one, for sure. but-
It's good. Go. Do you feel
Have it
like
done before noon, okay?
you and I feel like we have enough to take to council to our strategic planning?
Yeah.
To kind of.
I worry if we have too much,
I know
Well,
we do.
no, and so
Okay.
if maybe a
But if we
revision,
have these in 3 categories as, you know, like small projects that don't need city council, projects that we could form study groups for projects that they need us to work on immediately. I don't know. You know what I mean?
The only challenge is that, you just gotta always remember, this is just simply an advisory board.
Yes.
And so as
Yes.
far as like actionable items that we're going out there and, we'll have to give that some thought and make sure that we're operating within our
Right.
responsibilities.
Yeah.
What is our autonomy and what is not?
Yeah.
Find that line. So maybe we don't bring that up.
Sure.
Let's definitely think about it and, figure out the best way to go, but.
Yeah. And if you need me to meet with you before that strategic planning, but otherwise, however you want to organize that to
Mhm.
present ideas, I'm good with. You've heard from all of us and you kind of know the thought process
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, a lot of them are repeats. I just wanna, I wanna make sure that we're not bringing just a wish list to council.
Right.
It's just like this massive thing. So,
Right.
but keeping in mind too, that how many things that we actually have going on at the same time. So that'll be
Exactly.
a little bit of a trick, but I'll give it some thought.
Okay. That sounds good.
Okay, so with that, we'll move on to study group updates, and the study groups aren't listed here, so.
Yeah, I did that on purpose because, a lot of
I
them,
hope not,
like,
but-
a lot of them, none of us here are working on, like, AT&T, that's not, none of us are
City.
doing that work right now. That's really at the level where it's, staff is managing the project,
Mhm.
or at least ironing out some of the details of it. So I just put updates. This can get refined, and I think during our reorganization of this, it will be, but I kind of wanted to just put it out there for anyone who, like Brian, you're very active with invasives. I can start and give you a little bit about Mount Baldhead. I think I touched on it earlier, but like we're fully planning on moving forward with the restrooms this summer that PPW had its input.
Mhm.
That input was received, it was given to engineering, and I think this, at the workshop meeting, we're gonna be, with council, we'll be solidifying that plan and hopefully, putting it out for bid.
Wait, can I ask, or when we saw the plan, and it was basically designed to sort of, tie in with the pump house,
Yeah.
it looked a little plain. And I heard
We're
that comment.
too late
from
for
people.
that.
Well, I
So-
just think, going back to the artistic, I thought, is there any way not to change the design, but that as we think about it, I thought I heard somebody say like, you could maybe put something like, we could hang a picture on the wall or something.
I
I
think
just mean to,
We did talk about that,
Yeah.
like having areas for signage, whether it's maps, some informational, but I don't know if there would be.
On the
room-
north side of the building, that's on the plan,
Yep.
is to have some sort of a, display, kind of like what we have over at the information booth. The CVB has like that information board.
Mhm.
It'd be something similar to that. I think that there's kind of a encasement that some stuff can get put in.
all right, just
So,
keeping in mind that we are an art community.
To extrapolate on that, the idea that they talked about is like even on one of the blank outside walls, temporary artwork that hangs there for the summer.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, keep in mind too, once we build it, it's, we can,
We can
Kind of-
embellish it.
it doesn't mean it's that forever. We can always kind of use that as a blank canvas
Yeah.
if we want to.
Okay.
If we want to embellish or bedazzle it.
Wants to put the name on it.
I know, right? I know.
I'm gonna write that down.
But it would be
Put
new
that-
brick, so you could paint it.
Charge for a month of your name on it.
I know.
Okay.
Okay. Other study group updates?
Yeah, platform, we got Maple Street, that's also gonna be presented to council. So not a whole lot of input needed from PPW at that point.
Well, there's a meeting on that, isn't there, on Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Yeah,
Mhm.
which is tomorrow,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I know.
yeah,
I know.
sorry, these snowplow hours have had me, but, yeah, and there's like some seawall and concrete work that this is going a little bit off of the study group category on the agenda, but like, there's some areas of seawall that are in need of repair around the city that's gonna get presented to council as well.
Good.
A lot of damage that occurred like back when there was flooding. I think it was in like 2019 when the river basically crested the seawall. It caused some damage, and I think that we have to contend with that now. So, you know, there's still some conversation between the manager and the donator for Village Square Courts. I think after kind of hearing engineering talk about the potential to have a DNR grant to help us fund the Village Square Court project, the donator kind of had a change of heart, at least was entertaining the idea. So that's still a discussion. We haven't heard back, but that's where that stands. Had some requests for some Christmas light expansion, some of the side streets that I'll have to evaluate that. Yeah, as far as study group updates, that's all I've got is primarily Mount Baldhead.
And nothing on Park Street?
There's nothing on Park Street.
I got a question on that, and there are rumors going around that there's some things, some renderings and things that have been moved forward, but there are.
Nope, there's one little part of Park Street that that's gonna need some attention. It's on the capital improvements plan that we have. But I think basically the section from Mount Baldhead through like Bliss Street, like the Chain Ferry area. There's some issues that we need to contend with in that area, and so it'll be an area of focus within the next few years or so. But like for right now, Maple Street's pretty much got the big scary numbers. And then after that, I think Elizabeth Street, like once the school is done with construction, you know, and Elizabeth Street's in horrible condition and a bad water main. So that's gonna, you know, who knows? We could go with Elizabeth Street or Park Street, but that'll probably be up to council to decide which one first.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Blue Star Trail. Just in that,
Oh, yeah.
you know, I mentioned, and I think we talked about this before, you know, we've run into some headwinds, basically that, you know, we found out initially from MDOT that there were some tribal concerns about the trail, and that so the entire trail is part of a TCP. Yeah, I can't remember if we talked about that before, but traditional cultural property. And so because of that, we will need to, you know, work through some issues with the tribes. And at this point, really, the next step is to do some kind of what they're calling a walkover, which cannot happen until April, because part of that will include assessing all of the vegetation, the flora and the fauna, and you can't really tell too much what's out there right now. So that's why that would be deferred. At the earliest, that would happen in April. So we were actually hoping to break ground in spring, but that is not likely to happen right now. So we just hit some roadblocks, but we're really hoping that we can overcome these. People have worked on this project long before I got involved. So I think it started in 2011. And so we're not giving up yet. But I just,
A lot.
we thought we had accomplished a lot. We thought we were ready to, you know, shovel in the ground
Oh,
as soon as,
thanks.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so we've hit some roadblocks, and anyway, I just wanted to give a brief update on that.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess
Invasive species update?
I basically said, what we were doing with the high school
Yeah.
and the ask for, either I can write the letter if you want me to, or council can write the letter to KLSWA asking for a list of chemicals that they think would be responsible that go into the storm sewers that promote invasive species growth in the river at our section. That is in relation to that. That's all I've got on that. You have anything?
I don't.
I don't know. I'll just throw this in so I don't have to do member closing comments. We have a life-saving station that's going in at Dolphin Beach.
Yes.
And I believe that we've got, what's going in at,
The bike rack
Bike rack. at-
Bike
at
rack.
Mount
Yeah.
I
Baldhead.
think that, you know, they hit Facebook and social media, and I think that everybody's digging.
It's great.
2 local kids did good.
Yeah.
What I got.
actually, didn't we spend one meeting talking quite a bit about doing some additional bike racks?
Yeah.
We
Different
did.
designs.
And we need to throw that on our list too. More bike racks. We were talking about artistic bike racks.
Yeah.
Throw that on the list.
Like, in that same vein, You could have people sponsor the bike racks too. You know, I mean, I know Retro Boats would love to sponsor a bike rack, you know, at Willow Park. So people have a place to put their bikes on that end of town.
Yes.
You know, I'm sure other people would want to do the same thing.
That's great.
Okay. So with that, I guess there's no more study group updates. We'll move to public comments. So seeing no one in the room.
Looking at you.
Oh,
Bill.
Helen.
Helen,
Helen's
yay,
hand
okay.
raised.
Hi, guys. Just want to say thank you and congratulations to members Kimball and Roach for stepping up and taking on the leadership role. I appreciate you guys. I want you guys to continue to do all the good work. You've done so much positive change for the community. I like to see that continue. Of course, you have to take guidance from council, but don't let that stop you from dreaming about the other things, because you know what? Until you have an idea, that never matters. So just keep on with the good ideas and stay positive. I appreciate every one of you. Thank you.
Oh, and thank you, Helen. Thank you for all of your past service, and we know that you will continue to be working with us. No other public comments? There's no one else on, is there?
All of public.
Okay. So with that, is there any correspondence? I don't remember seeing anything. So I guess we're ready for member closing comments.
I can
Alright.
start, sure, yeah. I thought this was a really good meeting. I love hearing all of the ideas. And then I really think going forward, the organization of PPW seems like a really great priority for us to work on. And I just think that'll help all of our ideas going forward to be in the right place. And so I hope that going forward, we have that organizational meeting and layout of how we want to keep things going. And I think that'll help tremendously.
I think it was a great meeting. I want to thank Member Kimball for stepping up to be chairperson of the PPW. I appreciate you for that. And then I just look forward to continuing to affect positive change in our little corner of the world, doing what we can.
Judy?
I think it was a great meeting as well. I'm excited. A lot of these ideas are just fabulous and I'm ready to get into them.
Excellent.
Great meeting.
Yep,
Like the three,
the three
what we can
categories.
do, what we dream of, and what we have to do.
Yeah,
Agreed. I said my piece pretty much on every comment, everything we discussed, but I think we're off to a good start.
Scott, do you want to add anything?
No, thank you very much.
Yeah, no, and I think this was a fabulous meeting. I'm really charged and excited to, work on things and but I think we need a good structure, and that's what we'll work on first, and then we'll be sure that we are on the right path. And, we've got the support of the council for everything that we're doing, and I'm excited.
Yep.
All right, so do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes. All right, meeting adjourned. Oh.
Well done.